Welcome to Wow Quick English. Today, let's learn English through the inspiring story of Albert Einstein. Get ready to improve your English and discover how a genius changed the world. The Curious Boy Albert Einstein's True Story. Chapter 1. The Quiet Baby Who Did Not Talk. Let me tell you a story. A story about a boy who did not talk for many years, but later he became one of the smartest people in the world. His name was Albert Einstein. He was born in Germany in 1879. When people saw him as a baby, they said, his head is too big. Is he okay? But his mother wasn't worried. She smiled and said, "My boy is healthy. He's just different." Albert did not talk when he was 1. He didn't talk when he was 2. He did not talk even when he was 3. His parents started to worry. "Why is he so quiet?" they asked. Albert would sit alone. He would watch things very carefully. He liked to think, he liked to look, but he said nothing. Then one day, at dinner time, Albert opened his mouth and said, "The soup is too hot." His parents were shocked. "You can talk?" they said. "Why did not you talk before?" Albert looked at them and said, "Because everything was fine before." What a funny and smart answer. Albert was a very curious child. He always asked big questions. He did not care about toys. He liked to know how things work. One day, his father gave him a special gift. It was a small round box. Inside was a compass. No matter how Albert turned it, the needle always pointed in one direction. He was amazed. Why does the needle move like that? What is making it move? He held it again and again. He could not stop thinking. What force is pulling it? What is this invisible power? This was the start of Albert's love for science. He also loved music. His mother taught him how to play the violin. At first, he did not enjoy it, but later he started to play beautiful songs. Music became his best friend. Albert was quiet, but his mind was loud. He thought deeply about everything, and he loved to be alone. But when Albert went to school, things were not so good. Teachers did not understand him. He did not like to learn by rules. He wanted to ask why and how, but teachers said, "Stop asking so many questions." Albert felt sad. One teacher even said, "Why will you will never do anything great in life." Albert went home and told his mother, but she looked into his eyes and said, "You are special, Albert. Don't listen to them." And guess what? She was right. Very, very right. Chapter 2. The Magic Compass and Big Questions. Albert loved to think. He was quiet on the outside, but inside his mind there was a storm of thoughts. Every little thing made him ask, "Why does this happen? How does it work?" One day, when Albert was 5, his father gave him a gift. A small, shiny box. It had a needle inside. It was a compass. Albert turned it left. The needle pointed north. He turned it right. Still north. "What's happening?" he asked. "Why does it always point in the same direction? Is there something we cannot see?" The tiny compass opened a giant world inside his mind. Albert did not forget the compass. He looked at it again and again. He took it to his room. He watched it before bed. He stared at it in the morning. It was more than a toy. It was a mystery. And Albert loved mysteries. He did not want simple answers, he wanted truth. At school, Albert was still different. He did not like to learn by rules. The teacher said, "Repeat after me." Albert said, "Why should I?" Other students followed the teacher. Albert followed his curiosity. Sometimes the teacher got angry. They said, "He's slow, he's strange, he do not listen." But Albert was not slow. He was thinking deeper than anyone else. At home, he read books. He read about math and light and machines. He read about the stars. He read about the world. He answered questions no one else asked, like what is time? What is space? Why does light move so fast? Can time slow down? Big questions from a small boy. Albert's parents were kind. His mother taught him music. His father gave him tools and science books. They knew he was special, but not everyone saw it. One teacher even said, "He's a problem. He should leave school." So Albert did. Yes, he left school. He was only 15 years and he walked away. But he never stopped learning. He kept reading, he kept thinking, he kept asking. When most kids were worried about homework, Albert was wondering, what is the shape of the universe? He was not a regular student, he was a student of the universe. Chapter 3, Strange in School, Brilliant at Home. Albert Einstein was not like other students. He did not like to sit still. He did not like to memorize things. He wanted to understand everything deeply. At school, that was a problem. Teacher said, "Albert does not follow the rules. Albert asks too many questions. Albert is too slow." But Albert was not slow. He just did not enjoy boring classes. He wanted to explore ideas. At home, it was different. There, he was free. Free to think, free to read, free to learn his way. He read books about light and numbers. He studied geometry. He loved to solve puzzles. His favorite subject was math. Numbers made sense to him. They were like music, beautiful, clear, and full of patterns. And yes, Albert still played his violin. He would close his eyes and play softly. Music made him feel calm. Music helped him think better. Sometimes he solved math problems while playing. Isn't that wonder amazing? Even though school was hard, Albert did not stop learning. He studied extra at home. He worked no problems much harder than his school gave him. His uncle helped him too. His uncle gave him hard books and said, "Let's see if you can solve these." Albert smiled and said, "Challenge accepted." But soon a big change came. His family had to move to the new city. They moved to Italy. Albert stayed behind to finish school. But he did not want to stay. He felt alone. He missed his family and he hated school rules. So one day he made a big decision. Albert left school. Yet, just like that, he packed his bag and went to join his family. No diploma, no permission. He just walked away. Most people would be scared, but Albert was brave. He said, "School is not the only way to learn." And he was right. Later, he applied to a famous school in Switzerland. It was called the Polytechnic Institute. He wanted to study math and physics. But guess what? He failed the entrance test. He was good at math and science, but weak in language and other subjects. Still, the school saw his talent. They said, "Study for one more year, then try again." Albert agreed. He studied hard, and the next time he passed. Now, Albert was in college. But guess what? Even in college, he did not like to follow rules. He skipped classes sometimes. He read his own books. He thought about his big questions. He was not the favorite student. But one professor said, one day this young man will change science. And that was true. Chapter 4, A Love for Numbers and Ideas. Albert was finally in college, the Polytechnic Institute in Switzerland. He was excited. He wanted to learn everything about math and physics, but there was a small problem. Albert did not like to attend boring lectures. He did not like to copy notes. Instead, he read books on his own. He asked big questions. His classmates went to class. Albert went to the library. He wasn't lazy. He just wanted to learn his own way. His professors did not like that. One teacher said, Albert, you're always daydreaming. But Albert wasn't daydreaming. He was thinking. He was building ideas instead inside his mind. He had a friend named Marcel. Albert told him, imagine riding on a beam of light. What would you see? What would happen? Marcel laughed. But Albert was serious. He thought about time and space every day. After graduation, Albert had another problem. He could not find a job. His professors did not give him good letters, so no one wanted to hire him. Albert felt sad. He had big ideas, but no one wanted to listen. He needed money. He needed a job, any job. Finally, a friend helped him. Albert got a job at the patent office in Bern, Switzerland. He was not a scientist there, he was a clerk. He checked other people's invitations. The job was simple, but Albert liked it. He had free time to think and he thought a lot. He bought a new notebook to work and every day he filled it with ideas. Ideas about light, time, space, and energy. People around him asked, Albert is just a clerk. Albert isn't nobody. But they did not know inside his mind a revolution was coming. He worked quietly. No fame, no money, no title. But in his heart, he knew everything great was coming. Something great was coming. And soon it did. In 1905, something amazing happened. Albert wrote 4 papers. Yes, 4 in just 1 year. And each paper was brilliant. One paper said, light is made of little packets, not just waves. That was new. Another paper explained, atoms are real and here's proof. Another one asked about how fast things move when you're moving too. And the last one was the most famous. It said E is equals to mc square. Energy equals mass, time, the speed of light squared. It was short, but it changed everything. That year, 1905, became known as Albert Einstein's miracle year, Annus Mirabilis. In Latin, a young man working in a small office just changed the world. Chapter 5, The Theory That Shocked the World. In 1905, Albert Einstein became a star, but not the kind on TV, a star in science. His papers surprised everyone. No one expected a young man working at a small office to reunite the rules of physics. The most famous idea was E is equal to mc square. It means energy is equal mass into speed of light whole square. That's a big idea in a small equation. It showed the world something shocking. Mass and energy are the same thing. Even a tiny bit of mass holds a huge amount of energy. Scientists were amazed. Some did not believe it. Some were confused. But slowly they saw Einstein was right. This one idea could change physics forever. People started to notice him. Who is this young man from the patent office. He had no lab, no title, no big job, but he's changing science. Albert did not care about fame, he cared about truth. He kept working quietly, carefully, deeply. He became a professor. Now, he could not teach what he loved. Students came to hear him speak. He used simple words for big ideas. He did not just teach facts, he taught people how to think. A few years later, he finished something huge, a new idea called the theory of general relativity. It said time can bend, space can stretch, gravity is not just a force, it's how space curves around mass. Wow! It was deep, it was bold, it was. But how could people be sure it was true? Albert said. During a solar eclipse, light from stars will bend around the sun. Take photos, you'll see it. So, in 1919, scientists watched a solar eclipse. They took pictures, they measured the light, and guess what? The light bent, just as Albert said. It was big news. Newspapers all over the world wrote, "A new genius has arrived. Einstein's theory proven true." Suddenly, Albert Einstein became famous, very, very famous. People wanted to meet him. They invited him to speak. They called him a genius. But Albert stayed humble. He smiled and said, "I have no special talent. I'm only passionately curious." Even with all the fame, Albert stayed the same. He still played his violin, he still asked big questions, he still worked alone and thought about space and time. People asked, "How did you discover all these things?" Albert said, "I just kept asking why until I found something beautiful." That was his secret. Chapter 6. Einstein becomes a world hero. In 1920, Albert Einstein was not just a scientist, he was a world hero. Everyone wanted to see him, everyone wanted to hear him. Newspapers called him the new Newton, the genius of light, the man who bended space. But did not care about being famous. He cared about truth, peace, and kindness. When people asked him for his autograph, he gave it with a smile. When kids asked questions, he answered with joy. He said, "The most beautiful thing is curiosity." Albert traveled to many countries. He gave talks in Europe, America, and Asia. He met kings and queens. He met teachers and students, but he never acted proud. He still wore simple clothes. He still had messy hair. He still walked slowly and thought deeply. People loved him for who he was, kind, funny, honest. One time, someone asked, "Why don't you wear socks?" Albert laughed and said, "They always get holes, so I stopped wearing them." He was simple, but his mind was full of galaxies. In 1921, he won the biggest prize in science, the Nobel Prize in Physics, but not for reality. He won it for explaining how light behaves, how it comes in little energy packets called photons. Then that idea helped create cameras, computers, solar panels, lasers. He did not keep the prize money, he gave it to his family. He once said, "A happy man is too satisfied with the present to think much about the future." But secretly, he was thinking about the future. Even though he was famous, Einstein did not stop asking big questions. What is inside an atom? Can time travel faster in some places? How did the universe begin? He worked day and night, not to become rich, but to understand the universe. But dark times were coming. A terrible war was growing in Germany. A group called the Nazis began to rise. They hated many people, including Albert. Why? Because Albert was Jewish and he believed in peace, not war. The Nazis said terrible things about him. They banned his books. They buried his photos. They called him a traitor. It was dangerous. In 1933, Albert made a hard decision. He left Germany. He moved to the United States to a quiet place called Princeton. There he kept working. He never returned to his home country again. He made him sad, but he had to be safe. In Princeton, he worked at a university, but not just as a teacher. He became a voice for peace. He wrote letters. He gave speeches. He said, "No more hate, no more war. Let's build a better world with love and science." Chapter 7: War, Warnings, and Heavy Heart. Einstein loved peace. He dreamed of a world without war. But in 1930 and 1940, the world was in danger. Germany, his old home, was now ruled by the Nazis. They started World War II. The Nazis were building dangerous weapons, very powerful bombs. Einstein heard something that made him worry. He learned that German scientists were trying to build an atomic bomb, a bomb using E is equal to mc square, a bomb that could destroy a whole city. Albert was afraid. He thought, what if Hitler gets the bomb first? What if the world is destroyed? He had never worked on weapons, but now he felt he had to do something. In 1939, Einstein wrote a letter to the US President, Franklin D. Roosevelt. He warned him, Germany is working on a super bomb. You must start your own research quickly. The US listened. They started a secret project, the Manhattan Project. It worked. In 1945, the US built the world's first atomic bomb. But then, those bombs were dropped on two cities in Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Thousands of people died. Buildings turned to dust. The world was shocked. Einstein was heartbroken. He said, I made one great mistake in my life. When I signed that letter to President Roosevelt, he never worked on bombs, but his ideas helped make them real. That made him heart heavy. After the war, Albert worked harder for peace. He said, we must stop using science for wars. We must use it to help people. No more bombs, no more hate. He wrote to world leaders. He joined peace groups. He spoke to students. He said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding. Albert also stood for human rights. He fought against racism in the United States. He stood with people who were trusted unfairly, who were treated unfairly. He said, all people are equal, no matter their color, country, or religion. Even though he was old now, Albert kept working every day. He wore the same clothes. He rode a bicycle. He walked alone, thinking deep thoughts. Sometimes people saw him staring at the stars. They would ask, what are you thinking about, Professor? He would smile and say, about the mysteries of the universe. Even at 70, 75, 76 years old, he was still curious like a child. Chapter 8: The Final Years of a Brilliant Mind. Albert Einstein was now an old man, but his mind was still full of questions. He still woke up early. He still read books. He still wrote in notebooks. He was never tired of learning. He lived in Princeton, New Jersey. He did not have a big house. He did not want fancy things. His house was simple. He liked quiet walks, playing his violin, and drinking tea. He said, "A simple life is a happy life." Many people still came to visit him: students, scientists, writers, children. Everyone wanted to meet the famous genius, but when they saw him, they were surprised. He had wild white hair. He wore old sweaters, no socks. He looked like a kind grandpa. And that's what he was: a wise, gentle, curious grandpa of science. Even in his last years, he asked big questions. How did the universe begin? What is time really? Can we unite all the forces of nature? He tried to find a theory that could explain everything. He called it the unfile field theory, the unifile field theory, but he never finished it. Still, he tried every single day. People often asked, what's the secret to your success? Einstein said, "I stay with problems longer and I never stop being curious." In 1955, Albert became very sick. Doctors said he needed an operation, but Albert said no, he did not want to live longer with machines. He said, "It is time to go. I have done my part." In April 1955, Albert Einstein quietly passed away. He was 76 years old. The world cried. People lighted candles. They shared stories. They said goodbye to the man who changed how we see the universe. But even though Einstein died, his idea stayed alive. His work led to satellites, modern science, space travel, lasers, black hole research, new ways to think, and most of all, he inspired people to ask questions. Today, when we learn about space, time, energy, and light, we are walking in Einstein's footsteps. His picture is in books. His codes are on walls. His name is known everywhere. But he never wanted to be famous. He wanted us to keep learning. Einstein once said, "Try not to become a person of success, become a person of value." He also said, "Look deep into nature and then you will understand everything better. And the important thing is to never stop questioning." So, what can we learn from Albert Einstein? Be curious, ask questions, don't be afraid to be different, learn with joy, live simply, be kind. That's how Albert Einstein lived. That's how we can live too. Chapter 9: The Legacy of a Legend. Albert Einstein's life was not just about science, it was about curiosity, kindness, and imagination. He changed the way we understand the universe, but even more, he changed the way we think. He showed us that no question is too big, no dream is too far. The world is full of mysteries waiting to be solved. Einstein did not just look at the stars, he looked deep inside himself to find answers. He did not just work with numbers, he worked with imaginations, and that's what made him a true genius. But it wasn't just his brains that made him special, it was his heart. Albert cared about peace, he cared about human rights, he cared about making the world a better place. Even though he was one of the smartest people in the world, he stayed humble. He did not seek fame or money. He only wanted one thing: he helped others understand the world around them. Now, every time we look up at the stars, we can remember Albert Einstein. Every time we read a book or study science, we can remember his wisdom. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious Albert Einstein. His story teaches us something important. We do not want to be perfect. We don't need to know everything. But we must always be curious and never stop learning.